Morena koutou, welcome to the hearing session, mammoth hearing session for this morning for 4 different bylaws. Before we kick into things, I'm just going to open us with a karakia. Inoi tātou. Kia tau ngā manaakitanga a te mea ngaro. Ki runga, ki tēnā o tātou. Kia mahia te hua mā kihikihi. Kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha, toi te reo Māori. Kia tūturu, ka whakamoa, kia tina, huie, tai kie. All right, everybody. So at 10:15, we will be hearing from our first speaker, but we've just got a few bits to get through this morning. So we're hearing 4 different bylaws today. We have 9 speakers for the Morewa area of the 2021 review of the speed limit bylaw. We've got 1 speaker for the road use bylaw, 1 speaker for the on-site wastewater bylaw, and 2 speakers this afternoon for our parking bylaw. Before we move into the items, apologies and declarations of interest. I've received apologies from Councillor Tepania and apologies for lateness from both Councillor Foy and Councillor Collard. Do I have any further? No? In that case, I will move that those apologies be received.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mayor Carter. Dolly, do we need to vote on that by division?
Aye.
Apologies, yes.
Thank you. So that was moved by myself and seconded by Mayor Carter.
Chair Smith, at this time we're having trouble with Info Council division bringing that up on screen.
Okay.
We just move in second and then carry with all members, and this will be recorded.
Fantastic, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against, probably more importantly? No, that is carried, thank you. So our agenda for today, just 1 item for us to move. Item 4.1, 2021 review of the 2019 speed limit bylaw. The recommendation in front of us is that Council receives and hears the submissions for the review of the speed limit bylaw 2019. Do I have a mover?
Yep, I'll move.
Fantastic, thank you, Councillor Stratford. And a seconder? I'm happy to second that. Do I have any comments, questions, points of clarification? No? Easy peasy. Well, perhaps since we've got 10 minutes until our first speaker, Darren, is there anything that you think the committee need to know in terms of how the process will work between here and the adoption of the bylaw, i.e. any opportunities for feedback? Do you want to receive those today, knowing that we've got hearings next week as well? Any points?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Really good points. I mean, there's 104 submissions received, so obviously the review has the interest of the community, which is nice to see. Fairly evenly split in those wanting to be heard today and next week in Kaitaia. I think maybe if we wait until we've heard from our submitters in Kaitaia and then we bundle the package together and we can take that feedback away.
Fantastic, thank you. Do I have any comments or questions for Darren in regards to that? Clear as mud? Perfect. All right, well, we're going to get a 5-minute break before our first speaker. So we will vote on this in front of us now. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
No, that is carried. Thank you. So apologies, just a point of administration before we move into it. Today's hearings will be live streamed over our YouTube channel, and they'll be available obviously following that as well. So at this point, we've got 8 minutes until our first speaker. So at your leisure.
I'm just making a cup of tea.
Perfect. Would you mind making me one too, Mikata?
It sounds
we
like the
going
cat's
to
come in with a
adjourn?
skink.
Pause the live stream, perhaps?
Yes, that I'm happy to pause the live stream. Aisha, is that easy enough to do?
Doug Jane.
Oh, no. Good morning, Councillor Collard. Welcome, Doug.
Good. Good morning.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm late.
No problems, Councillor Collard. Good morning, Doug. Thank you for being here nice and early and nice and prompt. Welcome to the speed limit bylaw hearings. My name is Councillor Rachel Smith. I chair the Policy and Strategy Committee who will be hearing your submission today. At the blessing of everybody, we might just crack into it a few minutes early and let you get on with your day. So thank you for taking the time to make your submission. Just letting you know, these bylaw hearings are being live streamed this morning via the Council YouTube channel and will be available for your viewing pleasure if you'd like to watch it back at a later time. You have 10 minutes to speak to your submission this morning. I will let you know at the 9-minute mark. And if there is any time within that 10 minutes of you speaking, then there will be slight time for questions from elected members for points of clarification. So on that note, the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
So who's on?
In terms of attending this morning?
No, who's the one that's speaking now?
You are the one that's speaking now.
I am. Okay, thank you.
Apologies.
My first question would be, what is it that the council's actually trying to achieve with these speed limit reductions?
Apologies, Doug. Unfortunately, this is your opportunity to speak to your submission. It's not a dialogue where you're able to ask questions. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm assuming then that you're probably doing it to try and lower the accident rate and the death rate. And that being the case, I'm afraid it seems very misguided to me because you haven't really thought it through. The big problem we have in Northland is that the roads are terrible. The roads are very narrow, windy, there is very little opportunity to pass. The roads are generally unsafe, and because NZTA have been doing virtually no maintenance in the last few years, the roads just get worse and worse. And what the council really needs to look at is fixing the roads. And the one major thing that you could do to save lives is to put a barrier down the middle of the road. Now, there's lots of areas on the road which are no passing zones, and all of those places, by law, you're not supposed to cross the centre line. So in all of those places, you could put a barrier. But of course, we come back to the problem that our roads are narrow and winding. And so in order to actually fit the barrier, you would have to widen the road and improve the road. And then, of course, there's the question of gravel roads in Northland. I mean, there are so many miles of gravel road, and on those roads, a very low speed is still relatively dangerous. So, and I think you don't seem to understand that people aren't necessarily going to abide by your speed restrictions. So just putting on a blanket speed restriction, what sort of improvement in deaths and accidents are you going to get? Maybe you'll get 2%, maybe you'll get 5%. That's actually a pretty meaningless improvement. If you put barriers in, you're looking at 50%, 100%, a really serious improvement. And so that's my submission, basically. I mean, NZTA as a body are completely inept. You only have to look at the jobs that they do and how long they take. Look at the Waipapa roundabout as an example. Took way longer than it should have. At least we've finally got one corner that's now measurably safer, so that's a good thing. But if you're dealing with NZTA, they're great at producing paperwork, but they're incredibly bad at producing roads. And that here we are today. I see the Coio Bridge is possibly going to start on the 1st of November. That's nice. I wonder if, will that be 2 years? That's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you for your time this morning. We do have a bit of time, so if there are any questions from elected members, if you could just raise your hand.
Does this mean everybody agrees with me?
I think this means that you have made your point very clear and succinct, so your message has come across clearly. Doug, I haven't had any indications of questions, so sweet, short and sharp, you are done with us for today. Thank you very much for your time. You're welcome to stay on and observe, otherwise you're welcome to head off and carry on with your day.
Okay, are there going to be more submitters?
Yes, we have 9 submitters on this bylaw this morning and a further 9 next week. So
I'll stay on and see what I see.
fantastic. If you wouldn't mind just keeping your camera off and your microphone on mute, then it would be much appreciated.
Okay, it'd be great if I knew how to do that.
Well done. Okay, everybody, so that is our first submitter. We aren't scheduled for our next submitter until 10:30. Michael Drayton, so he is page 13 in your submission pack, page 33 in the agenda.
Madam Chair, I see the CE's with us this morning, and he was unmuted earlier. I wonder if he wanted to make comment. I'm not too sure.
What would you like me to make comment on, Darren?
Nothing in particular, Sean. I just noted you're unmuted and thought I'd better pay you the respect that is due.
Acknowledged, and I'm thankful for that, but no, I have nothing to offer just at the moment. Thanks for the opportunity, Darren. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Well, I managed to get to 10:14 this morning. That would be great if we could pause between speakers just to give everyone a break. That would be fantastic. Thank you. Policy Committee, and you have a mix of our committee as well as staff members online with you here today. Just a couple of points of administration to let you know that these hearings are live streamed via our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch them back at a later time. You have 10 minutes to speak to your submission this morning. Thank you for taking the time to submit. I'll let you know at the 9-minute mark, and if there is any time left within that 10-minute block, then I'll open the floor to any questions of clarification from elected members. So to the committee for clarification, this is Michael Drayton, and he is here to speak to his submission, which is on page 13 of the submissions pack. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Atamarie. No o haiwai aho, ko Michael Drayton toku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. And thank you, Councillor Smith. I don't think I'm going to need the full 10 minutes today. My ideas are quite simple on one level, but very complex on others. So I do understand that o haiwai is not in the scope of the current speed limit review, and that it may not be won't be when the other half of the rohe is examined. And that's really my point, because o haiwai lies on a state highway, the intersection of State Highway 1 and State Highway 12, and therefore falls under the jurisdiction of Waka Kotahi. So at the moment, the council is not able to assist us on these issues, and Waka Kotahi, in my experience, just doesn't listen. So we are left in a no man's land. And as the secretary of the o haiwai Taimai Residents Association, I can speak for o haiwai, but I cannot speak, I don't presume to speak for all of the other small towns across the district, which are also on state highways. So Pakaraka, Morewa, Tahiki, Mangamuka, Kaio, the list goes on. So in my experience, individual submissions to Waka Kotahi are not successful and are likely to be ignored and dismissed as not a priority, given all the other things that they have to do up and down the entire country. But I feel that a collective submission by the council to address road safety issues in a consistent and coordinated way would have a much higher chance of success and lead to much better road safety outcomes. So in terms of o haiwai, the issues that we are concerned about, currently we have a 60 km/h speed limit through o haiwai, where State Highway 1 turns to go north and State Highway 12 continues on to Kaikohi. The speed, some traffic comes through the town much faster than the 60 km/h limit, and residents report trying to turn out of Hobson Street onto State Highway 1, looking both directions and seeing that the coast is clear, turning and then finding a vehicle large in their rearview mirror right in behind them that has appeared out of nowhere. So we would like to see a 50 km/h speed limit in town with a 70 km/h buffer on the approaches into town, with the appropriate signage and road markings to go with it. One of the signs, in fact, a 60 km/h sign, is in itself a hazard. A resident is on her driveway. The sign blocks her line of sight as she goes to leave from her driveway. The Waka Kotahi acknowledges that this is a hazard, but have not yet got round to moving it, because again, it's one sign in one small town across the country. So it's a matter of finding that priority. And her voice, she's getting very frustrated in getting any action on this. So in terms of the speed, that's what we would like to see. We do acknowledge that regardless of what the speed sign says, there will be offenders who ignore it completely. Many residents have noticed that it is in fact police cars which regularly come through the town at speeds much higher than the limit, presumably on official business. But we do note that. Speed is one issue, but one of many. Highway is a very busy little town, particularly when the school buses are dropping off or collecting school children. There are safety issues with how the people can cross the road, where it is safe to cross at the intersection. Pedestrian access, we need more footpaths along to the rugby ground, down to the preschool, but again, that's on a state highway, it's not on a council road. So there's how do we get the footpath that we need? And at the intersection, there are issues with lines of sight, trying to make a safe turn at that intersection, particularly when large vehicles are parked. And they obstruct the view. So we feel that a larger assessment of road safety issues in a highway is required, and the only people who have the authority to do that are Waka Kotahi, and they don't listen. In fact, when we've engaged with them in the past on simple issues such as, may we please have engine braking signs? No engine braking, please. Council has said, yes, of course, and gone and got the signs and then had them ready to go. But Waka Kotahi has said, no, we don't give you permission to put those up on the state highway. We then, this is a few years back now, but we went through a long saga with Waka Kotahi about, may we please have the signs? And they said, no, they don't work. We said, what are you talking about? And they said, no, trust us, they don't work. Councillor Court, see your hand is up. No. So we're not allowed to put the signs up. Waka Kotahi went and brought in a sound camera, which takes a photo when the sound level exceeds a threshold. And that we were assured it was only 1 or 2 vehicles that were likely to be the cause of the noise, waking people up in the middle of the night. Sure enough, truck drivers were detected. Waka Kotahi had a word with them. They changed their behaviour and it stopped. Other truck drivers thought, what is this newfangled thing gone up on a pole into a highway? And then everyone was on best behaviour. So the situation went away. Waka Kotahi took the camera away, and lo and behold, the truck noise came back. Truck drivers have reported to us, there are no signs up. That means I'm allowed to use my brakes. You know, if you want me to stop, put a sign up. So we go round and round in this ridiculous loop. And that is our experience of working with Waka Kotahi, that they just ignore the voices of one small town because they are one of very, very many. So that, as I said, that was all going to be really quite brief. That is my main point, that I would ask the council to please be the voice of small towns across the district that sit on state highways, because NZTA, Waka Kotahi, just does not listen to us. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Michael, thank you for your fantastic submission. It's actually been really, really useful. We've got a couple of minutes here. I note that Councillor Court has a question for you. So Councillor Court, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam, and I apologise for the confusion. Michael, I put my hand up to ask a question when you'd finished, not to interrupt you midstream. I just wanted to ask you with regard to Waka Kotahi, are you just not getting an answer, or is the answer no? Because as your representative on the Regional Land Transport Committee, I can take that advocacy up for you on your behalf, but I'm just not quite clear from your submission whether they said, yes, we've heard you, but we don't think that intervention is justified, or you're just not getting an answer back. So that was one of my questions. My other question, Madam Chair, is that under the Vision Zero, road controlling authorities throughout New Zealand are required to review the speed limit on every single road in the country. There's 40,000 kilometres of them. So what they're doing is biting it off in manageable chunks, and they're basing those chunks on where the worst deaths and serious injuries happen first, and they're working their way down the list. So have you had any feedback from Waka Kotahi about where your community sits on that list? Because I've been frantically searching on my other computer while you were speaking, and you are identified on the map, but I haven't got quite round to the dates yet. So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor, the issue is when we have engaged with them, when they've got round to engaging with us, the effort to deny us the engine braking signs is, in my view, extraordinary, when they could have just put the signs up. It would have been far, far easier. And then the other issues around speed, no, we don't seem to get anywhere. To the point, to be perfectly honest, we just give up. We haven't tried to engage them again for some time. And so, yes, we can do that. And yes, if you would help us with that, that would be much appreciated. And so I honestly have no idea where we are on that list, but it doesn't surprise me that it's difficult to find. And again, I would think that if we are trying to make the case as one town, we will struggle. But if we make the case as one district, where we need a consistent plan across the entire district, I think we will have a much, much louder voice.
Thank you, Michael. I have one more question from Councillor Clendon.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Michael. I'm curious if you have a problem with engine braking. To me, an engine brake is something you use on a downhill to manage speed without riding the brakes too hard. Why on earth people needing engine brakes on what's essentially a flat and level approach, be it Highway 1 or or across town? What's the rationale for using engine brakes on that point?
I don't know the answer to that, Councillor. To be fair, it is quite steep coming down from the north and coming from Kaikohi. Driving, I'm not a truck driver of a large heavy vehicle. I have anecdotally, I've heard that it's a safety issue and provides them extra braking. But yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I just know that nearly every other town across the district has please no engine braking signs up. But when we asked to have the same, we were told no.
Fair enough. You'll be inclined to challenge those drivers on their driving technique if they're needing to use those. I drove trucks for 6-7 years, and yeah, the engine brakes was very much just backup, mostly on downhills. So yeah, anyway, thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Clendon. Michael, that brings us to the end of your submission time. Thank you again for taking the time to submit and for your advocacy in this space. It's really, really appreciated. And I'm sure that this is a conversation that all elected members would be keen to pick up and understand how we can assist with further. But on that note, go and have a great day. Thank you again for your time. Enjoy the sunshine out there if you've got it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, Steve. This brings us to you as our next speaker. I understand that you have a co-submitter, Angeline Wihongi. Will she be joining us today?
Angeline is having computer problems at the moment. She may or may not be able to connect. She contacted me just a few minutes ago, so I'm not too sure about that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that. Are you happy to proceed without her at this point?
Yes. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So, my name is Councillor Rachel Smith. I am the chair of the Strategy and Policy Committee, and you have our Strategy and Policy Committee here today, as well as a number of staff members. So to the committee, for your information, this is Steve Westgate, who is speaking on behalf of the Automobile Association on page 22 of the submission pack. Steve, just to let you know, our hearings are live streamed today via the Far North District Council YouTube channel. You have 10 minutes with us this morning. I will let you know at the 9-minute mark, and if there is any time within that 10 minutes, then I'll open the floor to questions from elected members. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor. Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity to speak to our submission. I'll expand on some points, starting with some general comments about the role and significance of speed limit changes on lowering the road toll. I understand that Caitlin is putting my further comments onto a screen, which I think you'll be able to follow. Yeah, there we go. Great. Some paragraphs I'll take as read to save time, but I'll refer to the headings as I proceed. Firstly, we consider how speed limit reductions constitute only a small part of the Road to Zero strategy. Modelling suggests we should not hold out hope that speed limit changes alone will make more than a minor difference to our DSI rate without parallel infrastructure upgrades and enforcement. While we acknowledge that lower average speeds result in fewer crashes of lesser intensity, sadly, we don't believe that lowered speed limits on their own are likely to have more than a minor impact on our DSIs, unless serious consideration is given to the implementation of infrastructure improvements and enforcement.
Apologies, Steve. Kia ora. Thank you, Roddy. Carry on.
Thanks. Moving down to measuring success, the strategy notes the importance of regular monitoring, although we recognise that with only a small number of crashes per annum in the various catchments under review, it will be difficult to separate improvements from normal scatter in the short to medium term. So speed limit reviews and the road toll. Away from the state highways, to what extent is the posted speed limit responsible for crashes, and what will be the impact of a lower speed limit? DSI crashes in Northland are unacceptably high. Surveyed AA members show there was a general willingness to consider proposals for speed limit changes on their merits, but called for much better evidence to justify these. The crash statistics quoted in the statement of proposal refer to travelling too fast for the road as being a contributing factor in 32% of DSI crashes in the far north over the past 6 years. However, this statistic doesn't directly relate to the posted speed limit as being a contributing factor to crashes that might have been avoided had the speed limit been lower. So who will be affected by the proposed changes? The statement of proposal notes that the average driver who drives to the conditions will get to their destination at about the same time. Clearly, these people are not going to need to change their driving habits and will continue to safely drive to conditions. The statement also notes people who travel at an unsafe speed, whether or not they are exceeding the speed limit, may experience a small increase in journey time. Now, this assumes that those high-risk drivers will actually slow down, but we believe this would require an attitudinal change. A recent AA survey found 66% of surveyed members considered road user behaviour the most important area for safety gains over the next decade. So just looking at these high-risk drivers, we're concerned that they have been shown to be responsible for 34% of fatal crashes and won't have any greater respect for any new speed limits. For those drivers, lower speed limits are not going to translate into lower speeds and fewer crashes. Only traffic calming measures, engineering improvements, education, safer cars and greater enforcement will slow these people down. An AA Research Foundation report covering fatal and serious injury crashes in 2015-16 found that for fatal crashes using a defined criteria for reckless behaviour, approximately half of the crashes resulted from that reckless behaviour. A further finding was that 38% of drivers killed were not wearing seat belts. These and other key issues, such as impaired driving enforcement, need to be addressed to bring about a meaningful reduction in the road toll. The AA member survey. Notwithstanding the above, a survey of AA members found there was a strong consensus that speed limits need to match the road environment and be consistent across different locations. Members support speed limit changes in places where there is a good road safety case, but strongly call on RCAs to ensure that the proposed speed limits make sense to motorists. We do believe that many, but not all of the proposed changes meet these criteria and concerns. For example, on sealed arterial and second collector roads, we accept that 80 k's is a safer and more appropriate speed, such as the roads linking Ahipara with Kaitai and Kohu. On unsealed roads, we support a lowering of posted speed limits. Initially, we advocated for a 70k limit, but recognising that 60 has already been adopted elsewhere in Northland, and indeed in other parts of New Zealand, for the sake of consistency, we now support the uniform speed limit of 60 on all our unsealed roads within the catchments under review. While 60 may not be a safe speed on some parts of some roads, warning signs will serve to highlight to drivers when they need to slow down. So speed limits around schools. We support the use of 40 and 60k variable speed limits past urban and rural schools respectively, but these should only be applicable when children are coming and going from the school. And we strongly advocate that VSLs should be accompanied by variable flashing signs such as below to attract motorists' attention. Static signs are too readily overlooked. A survey by the University of Waikato showed that motorists only see about 20% of fixed signs, but those flashing signs really highlight the risk factor. Again, for consistency, we believe a uniform VSL of 40 should be adopted for urban schools. Drivers should not be mentally distracted by having to register whether a 30 or 40 limit applies. Elsewhere in Northern, 40 is shown to be very effective. Accordingly, we retain our support for 40 past Ahipara School, although this is already within a proposed 40k zone. Minor engineering up with appropriate signage, such as a flashing school zone sign and slow road markings, we think should be considered, as in the photo below. Urban traffic areas. If motorists understand the reason for lowered speed limits in urban areas, and if the proposed changes make sense to motorists, they are far more likely to comply with them. It's especially important that local residents understand and support lower speed limits. When enforcement was tried in a Whangarei district coastal settlement a few years ago in response to requests by locals to apprehend speeding motorists, it was found it was mainly other locals who were exceeding the 50k speed limit. In small seaside settlements such as Ahipara and Kohukohu, we recognise there may be a case for a lower limit of 40. But again, without enforcement or flashing signs to show motorists who are exceeding the speed limit, we are concerned this may only have a limited effect. At Moerewa, we see the main issues as justification and consistency. The proposed blanket reduction from 50 to 40 on Moerewa's urban streets appears to be inconsistent with the speed environments described in the statement of proposal. Most of the roads are assessed as low personal and low collective risk. We think, therefore, they should remain at 50 to be consistent with the speed environment descriptions. If there is a problem with speeding cars, as there is in many urban areas, consideration should be given to traffic calming measures such as speed bumps. I think the main problem with speeding motorists is motorists who exceed speed limits. It's not the speed limits themselves so often that cause of concern for residents. I know that certainly applies in my case. I live on a 5 metre wide suburban street, and it's a 50k zone. Cars will come past at 90, 95 on occasions, usually in a cohort of 2 or 3. Oteria Road is a secondary collector road. We don't anticipate that motorists will understand why that part of Oteria Road from Pembroke Street to Kingi Road should be subject to a proposed speed limit of 40. The road does not match the description of 40k roads as set out in the statement of proposal. In fact, it hardly self-explains in some parts why the present limit should be as low as 50. If you look at the photo below, you'll see a long straight road with not a great deal of residential development. As a self-explaining road, that's not doing a very good job of explaining why it should be 50 at present. To lower it to 40, we don't think that will meet with general acceptance by drivers, so I think they'll ignore it. We recognise there are safety issues with the school and with the junction with Kingi Road, which leads to a marina sports field, and we've put forward an alternative proposal for consideration, whereby that area that you now see as being 100, that would be reduced to 60, so we have a deceleration zone effectively from the 50 to the 80 zone, and the 60 would extend past the Kingi Road junction, which we think would make that junction much safer.
Steve, just to let you know, you have 1 minute.
Okay, right. So in conclusion, we accept the description of speed environment set down in the statement of proposal. We consider the proposed changes should be consistent with those descriptions. We support the general principle of sealed rural roads having a speed limit of 80 and unsealed rural roads having a speed limit of 60, and VSLs of 40 and other traffic calming measures outside schools. We don't consider the proposed blanket reduction of Moerewa urban streets to 40 is consistent with the speed environment. We do not consider the proposed speed reductions for Oteria Road are appropriate and suggest an alternative be considered. However, we acknowledge the work being undertaken by Far North REAP in areas of road safety and driver education to address such fundamental matters as seatbelt wearing, not driving while impaired by drugs or alcohol, and reckless speeds. By working together, we would hope that REAP and Far North District Council, along with the police, can help achieve that road to zero goal, which we all aspire to. Thank you.
Steve, thank you very much for that comprehensive submission. That brings us to the end of your 10 minutes. So I just want to thank you for coming along. Councillor Stratford has her hand raised, so I will allow a very brief question, being that we are tracking well. Councillor Stratford.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Kia ora, Steve. Touching on the Ortidia Road comments that you made, does your consideration take into account the cycle trail and the volume of cyclists and people that go along that road, the two marae, the urupa and the waterfall that people cross Ortidia Road in large volumes to get to?
I wasn't aware of the waterfall. Because of the marae and the sports field, that's why I proposed that the existing 100k should be reduced to 60. I noticed there is a cycle or shared path, I think, alongside the road that shows up in the photos by the 100k sign. But certainly provision needs to be made for cyclists along the whole length. I don't know how far that cycle trail goes.
Yeah, it goes well beyond the 100. Thank you very much for that, Steve.
Steve, thank you for your time. That brings us to the end. So you're free to go and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Tēnā koe, Roddy. Thank you for joining us. Our next speaker this morning is Roddy Harper Pihima. Thank you again for being here. Roddy is speaking to his submission on page 40, and Roddy is from Taumata Makuku. So Roddy, you are being live streamed this morning via our YouTube channel. My name is Councillor Rachel Smith, and you have the Strategy and Policy Committee here with you today, as well as a number of staff members. Just to let you know, you have 10 minutes to speak to your submission, and within that 10 minutes, if time allows, then I'll open the floor to any questions from elected members. Otherwise, I'll let you know at the 9-minute mark. The floor is yours.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Hi.
My name's Roddy Harper Pihima. I'm the current chairman of a little village here called Taumata Makuku. We have 58 homes in our area. And I wanted to talk about our roading structure that we have just down on our state highway and around in our community. We have a 80-kilometre speed limit out on our main road. Big, massive problem for our community. We're predominantly elderly, and as you get to get older, well then it becomes more of a hassle with some multiple rear ends happen on this band of the road. We also have one of the largest death rates, which my community happens to be the first responders to. It's a huge undertaking. We know that for our community, but we're tired of having to go out onto the main roads and be the first ones to go through all of these horrific things. The last one was a young man and his elderly nan. And we've seen years and years of this within our community. We have a 50k zone speed limit, and yet we have no footpaths. We're trying to rectify that, but this is the issue. We have limited lighting. Whereas our lighting, it's pretty much dark in most of the area. We've just got some speed cameras thanks to Sandy. However, these are huge issues when it comes to health and safety. We've had multiple close calls. At my time that I've been here since my birth. I've seen over 30 accidents. Those are fatal. I've seen hundreds of people end up in these paddocks here, and they don't get reported. we got into the point where is that, we went to the police and got cameras, mobile cameras brought in. The reality for us is that because of the way that the road is structured, it's actually more of a hindrance than a helpful thing. When you have intersections that don't have lighting and no one knows that they're there, it's an accident or a death waiting to happen. Where we turn around and have no safety lanes and cars and trucks are just missing you by inches, it's a huge issue. And we recognise this the same thing. I heard Moerewa being talked about Aotearoa, and that's one of our concerns too. Because Aotearoa Road, the speed limits don't match the environment. If I had a proper camera, I would show you what that road looks like, and it's wheelie marks all the way through it. The speed that's happening there that needs to be stopped. I had a talk with my whananga up the road, Pamela, and we both agreed that speed limit should be moved back to Pukapu Road to allow for implementation of at least speed bumps, because we know that driver behavior is creating this, and they ain't going to really listen to signs. This is a fact. We've seen it all over the country. And so the only way you're going to prevent them from speeding down there is to put measures in place. I mean, what they're doing there is excellent. I really love it. But is it really going to be effective? The answer for me is no. And I actually live in the area and have lived here. My family's been in this area 81 years. And so I've seen how these roads have developed over the years. And the only way you're really going to fix those problems up there is to start implementing what we've done, speed bumps. People used to speed through our community. They no longer do it now. Why? Because we have speed bumps. And so when I look at Moerewa, it's just one big race course. Taumata Makuku has owned a top to me, but we are part of the greater and the wider community of Moerewa. And so where one stands, we all stand. And we see speed limits that don't match the areas. I know my whananga Pamela has got, has got everything sorted out. I didn't really prepare for this, mainly because I lost all my links in my email. And so I'm just talking to the things I really know about, like Taumata Makuku. And the only way that I could actually teach people is to show them our area and to show them what my community has to, I suppose, live with every time there's an accident out there. And the reality is that I've had to pick up a lot of broken people, because every time people get hurt out there or die, the last one, I had one of my own relations over there holding the hand of the elderly woman. And she deceased right in her hand. I had other members, including myself, present when the young man stopped breathing. And this is what we've done, not for just a few years, but ever since I was a child. We have little children sometimes lying up on our road, wondering what's going on. And then when they see people walking down on our streets, our roads, they're wondering why they're breaking down. They're wondering why they're crying. And ultimately, we understand it's not just the speed limit, it's the mindset of the people that are around here. As well as dealing with the environment. I'm always going to say that more education for driver awareness has to take place. I suppose 90% of the people who end up having accidents on our portion of the road is actually caused by speed. And the other thing that causes it is overtaking, illegal overtaking. And so there's actually nothing been implemented to stop or prevent people from overtaking in our area. It's just a clean, straight road, and that's a temptation to our younger generations. So they end up speeding, trying to overtake. Most of the time, they don't make it. Yeah, just what I mean. Come on, looking through. So I don't really have much to say. All I know is the problematic areas. I'm not too sure if Moira was going to be speaking about it, but Mason Ave is another area. I have Kaumātua Queer coming down here to my community and asking me how do we get the speed limit lowered, because the amount of, down there, the word for it, boy races speeding up and down the street. Our elderly up there turned around and said they feel intimidated, so they can't go to the police and report it. And I think that's one of the other big things in our community here in Moirua, is that a lot of people won't speak out because the backlash that'll come back from it. And I think that's where you need to have a means to allow for these people to come forward without having to feel that they're going to be punished for it. Pretty much that's about all I really have to say.
Tēnā koe, Roddy. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time. You've made a really, really clear point to us today, and we really appreciate that. I have a question from Councillor Stratford for you.
Yes.
Kia ora, Madam Chair. Kia ora, Roddy. Thank you very much for that heartfelt submission this morning. In your written submission, you're specific about lowering the speed in the service lane from 50 to 20, and for the road around the back from 50 to 30. I understand that there's some issue with us using 30. What if it was reduced to 40 or 20? Out of those, what would be your preference?
Well, I actually had Tim Elliott taking care of this. On the back end of our road is where we actually moved our bus stop.
Yeah.
And so when you have a look at it, well, then there's no footpath, there's nothing there.
Mm.
And so the speed limits that we've asked for is really all about health and safety. It's not because we want them that low, but because they need to be.
Yeah.
In the front, well, then there's no footpaths, so there's nowhere for anyone to walk. There's no. And so what people have to realize is that the road is our footpath.
Yeah.
And this has been the way since 1972 when I was born, and since before, all the way back to 1940s. The road has always been the footpath. And this is the reason why we've asked for those speed limits to be dropped down. Now.
Thank you, Roddy. That answers my question. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lee.
Yep.
It's over here.
Roddy, that brings us to the end of our time with you today. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to make a submission and to come and speak with us today. It's really appreciated. You're more than welcome to head off and enjoy the rest of your day now.
Yeah, I think Papa Kak is next, and he's sitting right next to me.
Ai, raharuhi.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Rahururi. Thank you for joining us this morning. The same as with Roddy, my name is Councillor Rachel Smith. We have the Strategy and Policy Committee here with you today, as well as a number of staff members. You have 10 minutes to speak to your submission this morning, and if we have time at the end of that, then the floor will be open for questions. But at this point, I will hand over to you. The floor is yours.
Tēnā koutou. Now, Kelly, I'm pointing at you, just looking at you in that position, with everybody there in that position. It's proud to be talking to you, me being here and talking to you. First time I've been on Zoom, I didn't know they could do this. Wow, we way back in the black box, you know, and it's well before your time, even my time. I was still a baby, being carried by my mother, and actually from here. Yeah. You know, and there's the issues are that we need double lines, passing lanes from the AFCO right down to Kawakawa. Now, that's the only way we can save our tupunas, mokopunas, from getting run over on the main highway. And beside all that, my COVID friend here, Roddy, he's put a lot on a plate for me. And I said, I'll always totoko whatever he got. But there's some things there we needed to talk. We need that speed limit down to a double lane from Moro, AFCO, right down to Kawakawa. See, they only started down there. But it'll save us, save our mokopunas from getting killed. Yeah. And that's the main thing is that. That's about all I can say now to go as far as Roddy. I said, well, I'll talk whatever he says. Okay? Anything you want to know?
Tēnā koe. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time this morning. I'll just ask, Councillor Stratford would like to ask you a question, so I will pass the floor to her.
Yep.
Kia ora, matua kak. I'm going to break the rules and just say kia ora and thank you for your time doing your submission today, but I'd be rude if I did not acknowledge you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yes, I'll say it's a long time. I don't need to go up hot flats and see you, see?
I know. Big
It's
hugs.
all right. You're doing a good job. Everybody's doing a good job. Hopefully it'll come our way and get this double line in for the safety of our children. And my mokopunas, the cut one. Yeah. Right up to about so many generations now, I can't keep up with it. I'm losing them like that. Thank you.
Kia ora matua.
Yeah, I got nothing else to say, really, till the next time.
Kia ora matua. I think our chair's got a frozen image on her Zoom, so she's not replying to you at the moment, but thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much. When she comes back, we'll ka kite anō. I think Rachel will be back with us shortly. She's probably going to, oh, there she goes.
Finished.
Thank you. Is my connectivity come back?
It has.
I don't want to hear that. Oh, you're going to.
Just a bit patchy there at the moment, Chair Rachel.
Is David Clinton on as co-chair? He can take over if Rachel has connectivity issues.
I think Rachel's back, isn't she?
I think she is. Good idea. I think she's back there.
Okay.
Just signalling if she freezes, David, you'll just need to leap in.
Sure. Next one up we have is Pamela Ann Nohi Simon, who I think we have here. Her submission's on page 37. Yeah, Pamela Ann, please carry on. You have 10 minutes in total. If there's time, we'll call for some questions at the end. Kia ora. It's all yours.
Kia ora koutou, and kia ora to our whananga who were just on here, Roddy and Uncle Kirk, and good to see Kelly and Sean and Anne and Rachel and Dolly here today. You would have read my submission. So not only have I lived in this area my entire life, I now live and own a home right here on Ortidia Road. Now, you've got 50K the 50k zone stops just before the marae. And in my view, we've just recently started neighbourhood support for our little area, which is from marae to marae. And when I'm speaking for this entire group. And we've spoken about what areas will need to be reduced in our little rohe to make it safer for us. Now, I did do a little bit of research on what would warrant a 50k or a 30k zone. And some of the things that were warrantable as a 50k or 30k zone is things like a sports facility. Well, Aotearoa Rugby sits on these roads. A marae, we have 2 marae on these roads, and the only cemetery in Moerewa, the whole area. So those things alone, in my view, warrant 30k on Wahamiti Lane. It's crazy that it's anything but that, but the road is probably, you're lucky if it's not, it wouldn't even be 100 meters long. And at the end of it is a cemetery. And probably really, Kelly's probably the only one that knows that, and Dolly, but that's the only cemetery that we have here in Moerewa, and that's how big it is. So it's really dangerous on any given day when when there's a tangi on, you have at least 100 cars on that road. It's extremely dangerous, and Kingi Road is where our Aotearoa Rugby and our marae sit. So that needs to be reduced to 30k, and that's to incentivise our whānau to not go fast past the marae and not to leave our grounds speeding out that gate past the marae. We do encourage them not to do that. However, sometimes they do think that they will speed past there. Also, the speed through past our house, I'm sitting at my home right now, but from where the 50k ends, I don't know if any of you know our kaitiaki for the area. His name's Wiley or Wuramu Kiritene. It stops at his house, and it's a 100k zone from there. So that includes the marae. So you can go 100k past the marae. It is an extremely dangerous stretch of the road. I have been working with the police, with Jordan Fraser and Chris McLennan from the New Zealand Police in our area to try and address some of these issues and have more of a police presence in this area, because the speeds are phenomenal. Past our house alone, because ours is the only house on this side of the road when you're going west out of Moerewa, past our house alone, people are reaching at least 150. That is the reality of it. It seems unbelievable, but there's no police. If there's one thing everybody knows here in Aotearoa is that we have the Aotearoa skid pad, or the Aotearoa diesel stop is what they call it, and that's where they come and do all the burnouts down there. And we also have what's called the Aotearoa speed strip or race strip. That's directly past our house. Those speeds are phenomenal. It is unbelievable. On a daily basis, or on a weekly basis, I would say that we would have at least 5 in a week that go past here more than 130 k's an hour, at least. This is lived experience, and this has been my whole life knowing that this is the stretch for the boy racers to race upon. Like even now, I still can't fathom how this stretch, knowing that there's the 2 marae, the cemetery, our rugby club, the Aotearoa railway station, I still can't believe these stretches of road are still 100k. Like, it still blows my mind today. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to stop everybody from speeding, but it sure is a point in the right direction. I feel that once we have that in place and we do some marketing and things around the speed limit reduction, that maybe then we could look at things like a speed hump, because my daughter and myself have had near misses with people along this road. We've also had, since I've moved back to Aotearoa, we've probably had, I would say, I've been here back for about 4 years in Aotearoa, and we've had 4 car accidents on this road unreported. One of those was a near fraction of a death with a mum and 2 children. That to me is far too high. And like Roddy said in his submission, accidents go unreported for fear of the community backlashing on us personally. We're in a heavily populated we're heavily populated with Māori. We're more than 80% here in Moerewa and Ōtiria. Everybody is our whānau. So you can imagine, you know, one of us says something against, oh, you know, you had a car accident. It's not seen favourably, as Rod mentioned. And so I just really wanted to reiterate that as well. I want to just really make sure that when we are looking at reviewing these speed limits to reduce this stretch from 50, from where the current 50 is, down to Pukapu Road, that we are doing the best thing for our community so we can improve the safety for all road users. That's my intention when I think about the safety of this area and what we can do to really lessen the blow to our community with things like car accidents. Because I understand that the impacts to our community are wide-reaching into our communities when it comes to a death. So I wouldn't like to think that we would continue to have that at 100k. The other thing is that we also have the cycle trail run alongside Ōtiria Road. So it's still, again, like we've got all these factors of why Ōtiria Road should really be reduced to 50. And nobody, and I'm so grateful that you guys have thought to review this. It's just like you guys are geniuses to have thought of it, because we also have the cycle trail running right here on Ōtiria Road, and it is so flippin' dangerous for our cyclists. There are no barriers on the cycle trail, so if someone were to crash, they will absolutely wipe out a cyclist to the max. So that as well is something that I do think of when I'm thinking about reducing the speed. So my submission really is 50 to continue from where it is on Ōtiria Road, and it's probably sitting at about, I don't know, 90 Ōtiria Road. From that spot there all the way down to the end, which is 252, which is Uncle Davey Ngawati's. That it needs to be reduced to 50 along there. Wahamiti Lane and Kingi Road need to be 30 because of the reasons of the cemeteries and the facilities that are on those roads as well. And yes, as Roddy said, there are areas in Taumata Makuku and down in the town that do need attention. And I am grateful for the Innovative Streets Funds that has addressed some of those issues with Waka Kotahi, putting in the islands down on Mason Ave, which I'm very, very, very grateful for. But yeah, I'm just thinking about our area and how can I voice what needs to happen for Ōtiria. Are there any questions?
Kia ora, Pamela, and apologies, I wasn't here to greet you at the beginning. Connectivity is not my friend today, so aroha mai. Councillor Stratford has a question for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pamela, Ann, are there any freight or logging trucks that go along Ōtiria Road?
Yes, every day. They park down on at our skid pad. They park their trucks down there as well, but no, every day. My partner is a truck driver, so yeah, there's loads of logging trucks.
Yeah. Cool, thank you very much. You just missed it out of your submission.
Yeah, sorry.
Kia ora, Pamela, and I don't have any further questions at this point from the floor. So thank you for your time and thank you for joining us. And thank you as always for participating and supporting our processes. It's voices like yours that make the processes meaningful. So thank you again. Go and enjoy this beautiful sunshine. Apologies, Councillor Court has now popped up her hand, so she has a question for you.
No worries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's more a question for the Community Board representatives on the call. I've heard submissions for footpaths. I've heard submissions for improved street lighting. I am aware that Taumata Tuku, and I apologise for pronouncing that wrong, is on the footpath list, but I just wanted to know if they were capturing all of this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Court. Member Ward, perhaps if you'd like to answer that quickly first, and then Pamela Ann, if you've got anything that you'd like to add to that response very quickly.
Yes, Councillor Court, good question, thank you. Yes, I did put in the chat, which may not have been seen, that the Bay Islands Whangaroa Community Board have actually... Sorry. The Bay Islands Whangaroa Community Board, hi Pamela Ann. As you know, we have committed our full footpath budget this year of 150,000 to Taumata Makuku. Thanks to your submission and Roddy and various other community groups. We have looked at the concerns along with council staff and the issue of the bus shelter and pedestrian traffic for the children getting along Taumata Makuku, the state highway slip lane into the bus shelter, and lighting has been taken into consideration. There are lights there, they look defunct. I don't think they've probably worked for many, many years. So we are looking at the whole overview there. Big picture, the board requested big picture stuff, that we didn't just do the footpath in isolation. So we're well aware, and hopefully staff listening in will pick up on anything that they haven't, but we definitely support, it's long overdue to make that area a much safer place for the number of residents, and the pedestrian traffic. We realise everyone walks from there to the village as well as to the playgrounds and things. So we've captured that. Thanks, Councillor Court, for your question.
Thanks, Member Ward. Pamela Ann, did you have anything briefly that you wanted to add to that? I know that the dialogue with the community board has been really, really good to date.
Yes, it has. Just when will we have an outcome of the road of what we're submitting?
So the process from here is we have another session of submissions next week, and then staff will work that up. I don't have an exact date as to when we will be deliberating, but I can let you know offline as to when those meetings will be, and just let you know what that timeline will be. I'll send you an email through.
Fantastic. That's all.
Have a great day.
Ka kite.
Thank you. So that brings us to our next submitter. We have Courtney Simons, who is speaking to her submission on page 6 of the submission pack. Courtney, welcome. My name is Councillor Rachel Smith. I chair the Strategy and Policy Committee. You have almost full press of the committee here with you today, as well as our CEO, General Managers at. So just to let you know, our hearings are being live streamed via our YouTube channel this morning and will be available later on as a recorded piece of information. You have 10 minutes to speak to your submission. I'll let you know at the 9-minute mark, and if there is any time within that 10 minutes, I'll open the floor to any questions of clarification. But welcome, the floor is yours.
Good morning, thanks for the opportunity. Can you hear me okay? Yep, cool, okay. So I guess that's probably going to be a lot more brief than 9 minutes. I've lived in Haruru for a couple of years now, and recently the speed limit was lowered to 80. And I appreciate listening to the last person, you know, when this is done, and it really does, you know, have a good impact on road safety. I feel in this scenario, it sort of doesn't make a lot of sense to me if we were to compare it with somewhere like Inlet Road that has lots and lots of driveways. It's a high residential area, and that is 80 versus the road from Puketona to Haruru, which is now being dropped to 80, has very few driveways. It's a really good road in terms of the seal. It's got a good camber. There's a lot of hills. So what I've found, and there's very limited areas to pass. So what I've found driving that road, you know, sometimes up to 6 times a day. So for Maui to pick up the children, and then, you know, often into Kirikiri and back and forward, people will sometimes drive 70 instead of 80, and some cars will struggle to get up the hills. So we get a lot of inconsistent speed and a lot of unsafe passing. So I just really question the logic in an 80k zone on such a good road versus, you know, making it something like 90 would make a huge difference. So yeah, fully in force of safer roads, but I do question, you know, how relative it is to other roads that sit around 80, and, you know, and how necessary it is to be at 80. It just seems like the police are always there policing it. It is a real struggle to just sit there at 80. on that road.
Thank you, Courtney, for that, and thank you for your time. I will open the floor to any questions for clarification. Councillor Court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Courtney, I'm going to seek some clarification from the staff, but my understanding is 70 is not a legally enforceable speed limit. So if we couldn't have 70, that leaves us with 80 or 100. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Sorry, I didn't say 70. I said people drive 70 because it's 80.
Okay, so what is you're seeking is to be
90 would be more sensible.
I think we've got the same problem with 90. I think it's the uneven numbers, but I'll get some clarification, but thank you for that.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Court and to Courtney, both 70 kilometres an hour and 90 kilometres an hour are enforceable speed limits. However, under the current speed limit rule, they are speed limits that are actually discouraged for a variety of reasons. And so therefore to implement a 70 or a 90 kilometre an hour speed limit requires us to actually go through a series of additional steps and get approval from Waka Kotahi to do that. The other thing that I would say right at the moment is that the road that you're specifically talking about is a state highway, which is outside of the jurisdiction of council. It's a Waka Kotahi road.
Okay.
However, we will pass this on to Waka Kotahi as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sean. And Courtney, as I said, because this is live streamed via YouTube and recorded, we are able to send the link directly to Waka Kotahi so that your advocacy can go straight to them as well. So at this point, I have one more question from Member Ward.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my camera. Not really a question, but I would just like to share Courtney's frustrations and sentiments in relation to the speed limit. I have received, and I'm constantly receiving a lot of complaints. The traffic, there I am, the traffic police and also in civilian vehicle, we all know the maroon vehicle, are actually hitting that road every day, just cruising it backwards and forwards, causing a lot of frustration and a lot of anger and causing people to go well below the speed limit of 80. So unfortunately it can't be 90, but it probably would have been a better result for everybody. It did go through quite a lot of public consultation. It might have been prior just to you moving to the Haruru Falls area, but there was a lengthy consultation process and a lot of support to reduce that speed limit. So just thought I'd fill you in on that if you weren't aware. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Member Ward. And Courtney, again, thank you for your time and presenting to us this morning. You are free to go and enjoy the rest of your day, and if you'd like to watch these back, they'll be available on the YouTube channel later on.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Pleasure. Have a great day. So that brings us, we have one final speaker before we break today. I'm not sure if they are here with us yet.
Through the chair, Mr. Heta is having trouble connecting, but he sent through a statement which I've put in the chat. I'm not sure if you can see that there though.
That's great. Thank you, Marlema. Perhaps just so that it is on the record, if the committee would like, I'll just read out that statement. It's a little bit hard to read, but I will give it a go. So this statement reads, I, Opai Hita, agree with the speed limit being reduced in Morewa. With the Ngātihini Health Trust new housing development at the end of Ranfurly Street where I live, the speed and wheelies are daily and very dangerous. I would propose closing off the street on the corner of Massey Street and Ranfurly Street. We only have 2 dwellings in our small street, which is being used as a speed motorway, not to mention the risk to the safety of our children. We, the residents, are waiting for that death event to occur, not a matter of if, but when. We are subject to day, night, and early hours of mental abuse. I personally have rang the police several times. That's the statement that I can see here. So we've just stated that and we'll receive it today. Malima, is there anything further we need to receive from Mr. Matuahita at this point?
Not at this point.
Fantastic, thank you. So that brings us to the end of our speed limit bylaw hearings for the morning. We've got an extra long break now, so you can all get outside and enjoy some sunshine. Our next speaker is due with us at 1 o'clock. So if everybody could be back just before 1 o'clock. I won't close us with a karakia because we'll be picking up later this afternoon. We'll just be pausing. It will be the same meeting this afternoon.
With the same link.
Thank you, Rachel.
Fantastic, thank you. If we've got any time within that 10 minutes, I'll open the floor to any questions of clarification. But at this point, for the committee, this is Jeff Garnham, who is speaking on behalf of Ngā Tai Ora to his submission on the on-site wastewater disposal systems bylaw. The floor is yours, Jeff.
Okay. Before Jeff starts, Madam Chair, can I just confirm that we're streaming? Thank you, Aisha. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hi, Sean. Hey, the submission, I believe, talks to itself. My background is I've been up here 30 years as a health officer, and 20 years of that at least was spent being one of the council's environmental health officers. And a lot of the work then a lot of that was before the bylaw existed, and there was a considerable amount of work spent on malfunctionings and failing septic tanks and on-site disposal systems. I was a part of writing the original bylaw, and basically there is a very real need for it to continue, and what has been written I'm in full support of, with the suggested amendments, which I believe are fairly minor. That is about really what I have to say to it, and I'm quite happy to field any questions there may be. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Jeff. If you're not wanting to speak any further to your submission, I will open the floor and ask if there are any questions at this point.
Yep.
Which there doesn't appear to be.
Oh.
You have made a very substantial submission, and it's really clear cut. So thank you for that, and thank you for your time.
That's what I was sort of hoping.
Today.
What's that, sorry?
Thank you for popping on early today.
Not a problem.
You're now free.
Free to go. Okay.
You're free to go and enjoy that sunshine. Have a great day, Jeff.
Catch you. Right. Bye.
Through the chair, we are still awaiting Mike Ryder.
Thank you, Malima. Are we perhaps able to just pause the live stream at this point until we have the next submitter? Thank you. Kia ora, Mike. Welcome to the bylaws hearing with the Strategy and Policy Committee of Far North District Council. My name is Councillor Rachel Smith. I'm the chair of this committee, and you have the committee with you today, as well as our CEO, general managers and staff. So just to let you know, this is being live streamed via our YouTube channel today and is being recorded for information purposes. You'll have 10 minutes to speak to your submission today. I'll give you a signal at the 9-minute mark, and if we have time within that 10 minutes, I'll open the floor to any questions from elected members for points of clarification. But on that note, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, I actually put the submission in because I'm most disgusted at the way that the pedestrians are being harassed and jostled and knocked over by people in the street using skateboards, scooters, bicycles, all that sort of stuff. And all they come up to us and say is, well, there's no rules and regulations about it. I've rang council about this. We had a lady knocked over outside on the other side of the road about 4 months ago, and the police were called and they wouldn't do anything about it because they reckon it's not a police issue. The young guy and concerned just laughed at the lady and just skateboarded away. But they're harassing some of the shopkeepers now, and I'm going to actually we're going to have to start taking stuff into our own hands. But my point is, if you've got rules, somebody's got to administer the rules somehow, and it's not being done by anybody. We have to basically do it ourselves. I've taken skateboards off people, I've taken scooters off people, and then I get abused by the families to come down and, what did you do that for? I said, well, on the footpaths there are signs. Oh, some of our people are skateboarding that fast they can't read them. I said, well, how do they know they're there? You know, this is the thing. When they used to be on the poles, we didn't have the problem. But just having them on the footpath, they go past so fast, and you know, past my door. I've just had to take a couple of them out with pieces of pipe and that, just throw it on the ground and knock them off their feet, and they get quite abusive. But I said, well, you're not allowed to be on the street on your bicycles or on a scooter or on a skateboard. Who's going to stop us doing it? And I said, well, at the moment I'm having to do it. So that's the main issue I have with the streets at the moment. And I understand reading the proposed bylaw, this is going to be talked about now and talked about in council, but it's actually not going to come into law. And is it June or July next year? So I just need somebody to tell me what we can legally do or not legally do to stop this happening. The lady at the new shop along the road that sells the donuts, she's getting harassed by 2 or 3 young Maori boys all day, every day outside her shop, and she's just over it. You know, she wants to stay open, but she said they just blocking her front door. But the skateboards go flying past the street, past the shop sometime. They're not even on the things. And then they're doing all the wheelies outside the shops, marking up all the ground and just generally harassing everybody because they know no one's going to stop them doing it. So my question to the councillors and the people involved is there a law? I was told that what isn't one at the moment. I want to know, is there a law, and what is the new law going to be if and ever they put one in? And if there's not, well, I'm sorry, but it's going to be summary justice by a lot of the retailers in the town. So that's my little quick 10 minutes. I'd much rather have somebody ask me some questions and tell me some rules and regulations and what actually is law and what is not law.
Kia ora, Mike. Thank you for that. That's absolutely fair enough. So that's exactly why we're putting this bylaw back into place, is because there wasn't anything there to enforce. I can't answer the questions around what can be enforced and what can't be enforced, but perhaps what might be a better approach is if we ask one of our general managers from that space to contact you directly offline from here and have that conversation about what can be done. This is a hearing space.
When was the bylaw taken out? You there?
I don't have that information off the top of my head, unfortunately, but that's something that we can help address with you offline from here. I do have Councillor Collard has a question for you, and then if we have time, perhaps Dr. Dean Myberg might be able to make comment.
Okay.
Mike, it might be of help if you have documented these incidences so that it's not perhaps hearsay, and you're able to call dates and perhaps people just to help with any evidence that's required to provide strength to the bylaw.
That's not a problem, Dave. I'll just go out and photograph. I'll just film them on my phone.
That'll work.
And you'll have everything loaded in there. But it's sometimes you're out there with the camera, and the F word comes out really quick. And you know, get off the F and footpath. Stop filming us. That sort of stuff. So you've got to be a bit careful, because I don't want to get my phone smashed to pieces. But yeah, there's nothing. I haven't had much today, but we can hear them coming from miles away with all the little rough bits in the main street. Like you can probably 50 yards away, you can hear them coming, and it's not just young people. There are some 25, 30, 35-year-old people doing it as well, and then they sit outside Muscle Rock with their skateboards, banging them on the ground, screeching them round, not even utilising Muscle Rock facilities, as you were probably well aware in the old days. And
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Mike, perhaps if Councillor Collard, you could pick this up directly with Mike to look at how we can address it in the shorter term. Councillor Stratford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for your submission, Mike. Yeah, I was more concerned about, so most of the country is having to put in, allow bikes to be able to get around towns. Do you find that cyclists can use the streets of Kaitaia safely? Are they able to get around without having to, avoid vehicles, or do they need to actually use the footpaths?
Very rarely do I see a cyclist on the street, on the street itself, on the road itself. And the ones that are riding them on the footpaths never wear helmets anyway. And they're the ones that are making all the black marks all over the footpaths with all their wheelies and stand-ups and just general having a bit of fun.
I think
just to
help Mike with that, I think that the Commerce Street for Kaitaia with cars parked diagonally or along the road, the street is too narrow for bikes, and it is definitely a hazard.
Yeah, well, it would be, yeah, that's true, because then somebody parks there and then they open the door. I've seen films of it happen in Auckland and some of their wider streets, and you've just got to be careful if you do park there. If you open your door, you've got to make sure there's no one coming along anyway. But very rarely you see cyclists on the main street in Kaitaia, and when you do, I say very, very rarely any of them are wearing any head protection whatsoever, which is actually law. They're meant to have it on.
Thanks for that, Mike.
Mike, thank you for that. At this point, I don't have any more questions. Thank you for making your submission, and these sorts of issues are exactly why we're wanting to bring the bylaw into place. Dr. Myberg pops his hand up and then takes it down, so I'm not sure if you were wanting to make a quick comment here or not, Dr. Myberg.
Madam Chair, yes, we will work with through Councillor Collard with Mr. Ryder. Any incidents like this should be reported to Council as a request for service. We have quite a good working relationship with police in Kaitaia, and what I think we need to do is incident by incident respond and respond in a joint fashion with police, because it sometimes borders on criminality as opposed to having a bylaw or enforcement of a bylaw. So it will take a joint approach, whether there's a bylaw or not. So that is my suggestion, that we work with police and try to address this problem.
Okay, well, the main people that are complaining around it, I'll go and visit them and see if they can get their phones and get some photographs of these people, and that'll give you all the times and dates when these happen.
Thank you.
School's gone back, I think, so things are a bit quiet today. But yeah, after schools, that's when the main issue is heading to school in the mornings, and then after school, when it comes back, that's when they're pretty horrific, when they got the good skateboard park, but they just like to be, we have to be seen to be noticed, sort of stuff. But I'll work with Dave in conjunction with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's a great outcome. Thank you for that, and thank you, Dr. Myberg. Mike, at this point, there are no further questions, so I just want to thank you for your time, for making this submission, and for coming along to speak to us. You're welcome to go and carry on with your day now.
Okay, thanks very much, and you enjoy the rest of your meeting.
You too.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Cheers, Mike.
Darren.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just on the back of what Dean was saying, and further to support, I think, what Mike Ryder is saying, that the current bylaw is pretty clear where you can and can't skate, ride your bike, and who the enforcement officers are, which include the police. So coming back to Dean's point, the public just need to be careful as to how far they take what it is that they are willing to do and putting themselves in harm's way. I mean, we have enforcement officers through council. We have a police force which is there, from my memory, to serve and protect. And so I think that is the best route for us there.
Thanks, Darren. Very good points. I think that your memory is probably pretty correct. So really good points.
Madam Chair, do you want to comment on that?
Perhaps, Dave, I noticed that our next submitter is online and we are live streaming at the moment. So more than happy to have that conversation offline. But at this point, I think Wade Russell is with us. Wade, if you're there, if you wouldn't mind turning on your camera, if you have the ability, that would be great. Welcome to our hearings for this afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And yourself? Nice to see you.
Good, thank you. And I've also got Gary Bodle with me, who's the next submitter as well.
Fantastic. So my name is Councillor Rachel Smith. I chair the Strategy and Policy Committee, and you have the team of the committee around the virtual table with you today, as well as numerous staff. So the way that this works, you are submitting or hearing today on the parking bylaw, on your submission on that.
Great.
You have 10 minutes to speak to that submission. If you finish within the 10 minutes, I'll allow questions from the floor, and I'll let you know at the 9-minute mark how you're tracking for time. But on that note, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, first of all, hello everyone, how are you today? Welcome to our little place at Opito Bay. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. Look, I sent my submission in, and I thought it was a reasonably comprehensive submission. And I recognise that Opito Bay is actually a very small part of a very big plan for the Far North District Council. However, the parking in Opito Bay is actually very important to a lot of the residents. And I want to sort of speak on some of their behalf because I've spoken to them and they've asked me to speak. But before I do, I want to ask how many people have actually read the submission I made? Paul?
I think it's safe to assume everybody's read your submission. Thanks.
Have you, Darren?
At this point, this is a hearing, so it's a bit tricky for questions and answers.
Okay. Well, so in actual fact, as you've all read my submission, I don't think there's any point in poring over it again. My points in that submission are very clear, and I was wondering if the committee actually had any questions concerning my submission.
Thank you for that, Wade. So the way this works is if there are any members of the committee who have any questions for you, they will pop their virtual hand up for me and indicate. As you've said, your submission is quite in-depth and well written, and we're aware of the issues that you've been faced with over the last few months, especially in Opito Bay, but for a longer period of time than that.
Much longer period of time.
So at this point, I have Councillor Clendon with his hand up.
Yes. Good day, Dave.
Yeah, hi, Wade. Thank you for that. Just curious, Wade, I was out at Opito about a week ago, one day last week anyway. The 3 forklifts were parked up, and there was also on the beach kind of a large SUV with a big box trailer behind it. And I just wonder if that was part of the same problem.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it seemed to be like pretty much a semi-permanent fixture on the beach. I was just a bit surprised.
No, that SUV and trailer is removed every day, but it's parked down there sometimes 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and remains there till 5, 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And in actual fact, the other night, I think that SUV was a part of a group that worked until about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night on the ramp.
Right, yeah, because I was out there kind of late morning and it just seemed a little bit unusual to see something like that on the beach. So
no, that's quite normal.
Okay, thanks, Wade.
Yeah. Parking's a premium in Opito Bay, and And there's been a lot of conversation around trailer boat parking for people who want to go out fishing. But I'm really, really keen to preserve Opita Bay for all the residents in the far north. This is a lot of families that come to Opita Bay that cannot afford to get a boat, own a boat and go out fishing. And they bring their kids whānau from Ohio, Kaikoai, all over the shop. And they come down here, they park on the foreshore, and they enjoy the beach and enjoy the rocks and the walk over the hill and the tracks and things like that. But the parking of these particular boats on these three tractors on a permanent basis, plus their associated cars, and there's 2 down there right now, take precious parking away. And we're trying to look after the area for the fishermen, the day trippers, and the residents. And these tractors, forklifts, they repair them on the foreshore, they drop oil, they drop petrol, they're loud, they're noisy, they're intrusive any day of the week. In fact, we had our first one come in this morning, I think at about 7:30, stayed till about 9 o'clock. Okay. And what I'm hoping from the council is to be able to manage that parking of those vehicles, have better signage for the people who are day parkers, so they can, when they come down, they can almost ensure they get a spot. Because we've got the other issue that people are coming down here with their boats and their trailers, finding the parking full in the trailer area, and then disconnecting their trailers and putting them in the day parking area and excluding, and then parking alongside. So that excludes people who just want to bring their families down. Okay.
Thank you, Wade, for that submission and for your time as well. Yeah. I don't have any more hands up, so I think that your comprehensive message has been well received. Yeah. I'll ask if you wouldn't mind passing over to Gary Bode.
Yes, I will. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yes. Have a good day.
Yep.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, Gary. So same rule play as before. So you've got about 10 minutes to speak. For the committee, this is Mr. Bodle, whose submission is on page 6 of the parking bylaw submission attachment. Wade, Gary, your 10 minutes starts now. I'll let you know when you hit the 9-minute mark.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to verbally support our submissions. I'd like to emphasise just a few points. First, I make suggestions with a little bit of experience in that I was a council warden at Riversdale Beach Resort near Wellington, a big playground for the Wellington people. And as a council warden, we were to have a direct communication with council, implement their bylaws, and assist council with the proper wording for their signage and placement of their signs. This, of course, communicates with the public what the bylaw is, and it also deters people from breaking those bylaws. It's obvious that the council staff are not in the position to police their bylaws, with the exception of building inspectors and noise control, dog control, and so on. Nor are the police expected to do the same, as they're overstretched anyway. So what we've got is a silent policing, which in the form of signage. And as I said, that informs the public of what the bylaw is, and it helps deter any people from breaking those laws. A good example of good parking signage is your new Windsor Landing, where everybody knows where to park because of the white lines on the tarmac, and it's pretty obvious those areas which need a trailer and those that are just independent cars. A poor example of no signage is at our Opita Bay ramp, where we have overweight trucks parked there for hours, sometimes half a day. And according to Chris Galbraith's Far North Holdings, he maintains that that ramp is not reinforced to take heavy trucks. So this is a good example of where a sign should be at the top of the ramp either saying no truck parking or giving a maximum weight for trucks. And my last suggestion to you, and you can wipe your brow now, is that I think it's time for old-fashioned consultation with the residents at Opito Bay. And you've got people here of great calibre, like your ex-mayor Yvonne Sharp, and like Wade Rousel, who you've just spoken to, who has a legal background and is in the middle of the resort here and can see what's going on. And I think that the council would go away with more facts of what's going on here than as previous experience with like having a consultant come out and look at the car parking situation here without having all the facts or a good part thereof. So his decisions are sort of prejudice in a way. So it'd be really good to bring that old-fashioned consultation back with some appointed people of calibre within the bay. That's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Bodle, much appreciated. Do I have any questions from members of the committee at this point? I'm not seeing any hands at this point, so I think you've made your point clear, concise and factual, so thank you for that. I'm sure that there are some of us who would very much appreciate taking the offer up to come out and enjoy that beautiful sunshine out at Opito Bay that Wade just showed us.
But so the trouble is you might not be able to find a park.
We're pretty good at carpooling here at FNG.
Good one. Oh, you guys have a good day. How many people are you interviewing today?
We've only got the two of you on the parking bylaw today.
Oh, well, okay.
You are the last.
We feel privileged.
You're our last two of the day. So go and enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy that sunshine.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye. So everybody, my understanding is that brings us to the end of our hearing session for today. Well done to everybody for getting through. I'm just going to close us with karakia and complete our live stream. So, inoi tātou. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, hei huarahi mā tātou e te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou e tātou kato. Tuie, tai kie. Kia ora. Aisha, if you could let me know when